episode 32, A Star is Born. Woot! And, it's been a while. We've both been sick. Yeah, he still is. I got over mine, but it is flu season pretty bad over here.
But, this episode was kind of an interesting one in that it's very clear that we are approaching the point of, the end of the Green Ranger. Like, we're approaching that where that plot line is becoming a lot more relevant. Because you can see the limitations of Green Ranger footage.
Yeah. And Ranger's Burai could only be in battle for limited periods of time, and actually after his arc where he changed good, he only had like one episode where he fought on foot, which we don't even use the footage from because it's too violent. So he's really just there for the Zord battles, and sometimes he doesn't even morph, so sometimes they have to reuse summoning shots. But, yeah, basically the main plot is Tommy's auditioning for a commercial, and so is Bulk, because of course he is, and it somehow became the focus, even though it only exists to serve why he's not there at the start of the fight.
Right, like, that's what makes this episode particularly weird, is that ostensibly the A-plot is all there and designed to explain why Tommy is not immediately in the Zord fight, but arguably the Zord fight is the B-plot. Because as it turns out, Rita Repulsa is sick and thus not up for actually taking on the Power Rangers.
I wish we
feel for you, girl.
Yeah, I wish we could say we planned that timing, but we didn't.
Yeah, feel for you, girl. But Goldar, Scorpina decide they're going to take some initiative and go off to fight some monsters. So they get Finster to make a weird worm monster. And
fight some monsters?
Baseball monster.
You mean make monsters and fight the Rangers.
Right, yeah, sorry.
Two this time. We got this worm thing that Scorpina calls her pet, and this other troll-like thing that's, I guess, supposed to be baseball-themed.
Because baseball is super big in Japan.
Yeah, they just kind of ignored that and didn't make a baseball episode, except for one part where Jason says batter up.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It again, feels like they're just trying to use up what footage they have more than, I could totally have seen that there was probably initial plans for a baseball-themed episode, and that probably just didn't make the cutting room floor.
Yeah. I mean, what would you have done? The Rangers are coaching a junior league baseball team? Maybe, but nah, I didn't want that.
A Jason-oriented episode where...
Well, it's sort of a Tommy spotlight episode, because, he's auditioning for a commercial, and Bulk is too, because he's always looking to get famous. Bulk and Skull Slapstick shows up.
Actually, a good portion of the episode focuses on Bulk and Skull Slapstick.
He's trying to get a tan. Yeah. And Skull, being such a great friend and manager, rubs some tanning oil on him after putting too much on.
Well, no. Accidentally spills the tanning oil and then decides to put mayonnaise on him to use as tanning oil, which obviously doesn't work. And also, oil and egg cooked in the sun. God. The smell.
I know it sounds like we're making fun of this episode. It's all over the place, but honestly, it's not.
It has a lot of really fun moments. It's just such a weird episode.
Yeah, the two things are kind of going on at the same time. It cuts back, Tommy's there auditioning. The other Rangers are at the beach, because for fun, I guess. Why not?
Tommy ends up leaving his communicator in his gym bag.
Which is understandable. You really don't want to be wearing watches and stuff when doing martial arts.
But it feels as if there could have been an interesting conflict there where Tommy has to choose between the interview and going to save his friends. Yeah. They could have had that in the, where Tommy misses the interview. Or Tommy nearly misses the audition, but just manages to get back in time. Which I think they probably should have done. If they had minimized some of the Bulk gags.
Well, right now it's still pretty... The show's not taken too seriously. Later seasons, they do go with that whole plot line of balancing real life and Ranger life. Right now, it's still just fun.
Right.
But honestly,
it feels like a missed opportunity to me.
yeah,
I
but
guess.
you know, that's pretty deep, and this is very much a episodic episode, a standalone story, and yeah, like I said, Vulcan Skull is actually fun to watch. Tommy is pretty impressive with his martial arts as always, and yeah, there isn't much of a ground fight. It kind of goes straight to Zord battling, but it's actually a really good one too.
It's actually one of the better Zord fights I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, so actually, no, this is a good episode.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really fun. It just feels a little odd, if only because of how reliant it is on the A plot almost overwhelming the B plot. But the B plot is so damn good, you kind of don't care at the end of the day.
And honestly, it's really not entirely obvious which is the B plot.
Kind of, yeah. That's what kind of makes it fun.
So, shoot. I don't know. It's weird. You want to make fun of the episode, but
it's also
I would watch it again. That's a fun episode.
Right, like, you're making fun of it, but because it's so good, that the silly parts stand out and make it even better.
Well...
Because, like, even the Vulcan Skull moments are fun,
well,
instead of being cringy.
Yeah. Well, back to the Zord fight. It's the bit... Scorpedo uses this new worm that shoots... Silly string, you could say, traps them in a cocoon.
Well, it shoots yarn, and then that yarn becomes silly string in the Zord.
Yeah, the footage is there in this cocoon, and they cut to some original footage inside the cocoon, which is...
Clearly supposed to be like one of those paper, like, funnel tunnel things that kids can, like, run through, or like dogs when they're doing, like, their training thing. It's clearly one of those big, huge, like, funnel things. And they just stuffed folks in Power Ranger armor in there and like, oh no! What are we doing? We're stuck in here! It's like...
And this is probably one of their least complicated plots ever. They're trapped in the cocoon, they throw it in the ocean, and I guess they were hoping they'd drown.
Which, you didn't poke holes in the thing, so it's not going to sink. It's going to float.
Well, they'll be trapped at ocean indefinitely, which is kind of worse than drowning. But they managed to get out with their guns. Yeah, they're blasters.
Yes, you trap these Power Rangers, but you don't disarm them.
Well, how could they?
Or make sure that they're not in their suits.
What bugs me is why are they using them in blaster mode instead of the knife mode? You don't want to shoot lasers that close range.
Yeah, like that's where we're kind of getting into the nitpicky part. But I think
it's all nitpick. Every complaint is nitpick.
Well, fair enough.
The Zord fight, for some reason, they don't combine. They fight individual Zords until Tommy does show up.
But ironically, it kind of makes sense logistically when you realize that there are like 3 or 4 monsters moving simultaneously. It makes more sense for them to be separate and like overwhelming with numbers. So I get why they did it.
It's actually kind of a dead thing in Sentai Power Rangers is individual Zord fights. You'd still get like the Red Ranger will have his own independent mech, and maybe they'll eventually have more than one Mega Zord, but the other 4 are usually kind of shafted. So they don't do much, just the stock shooting, but it's still enough for the imagination.
Right, and it makes for one of the more dynamic Zord fights because of that.
It's like the 3 of them, which is Goldar, Scorpita, and that baseball monster. The worm kind of disappears for a bit.
And then comes back for like stage 2 of the Zord fight. There's actually 2 Zord fights.
Yeah. Tommy shows up, they form the Mega Dragon Zord fighting mode, whatever you want to call it. It's been called multiple things.
Right. I don't think they come up with an official name.
The official name, well, when it debuted, they said Dragon Zord in fighting mode, but wikis will call it Mega Dragon Zord. Anyway, that one is used. They try that cocoon thing again, and they use the spear as sort of a wind tunnel's shield.
A shield, which has more of a buckler in its actual design if you look at it.
Which is actually the Dragon Zord's chest, if you haven't noticed.
Right. So I'm sitting there kind of going like, okay, so the shield protecting it, and it's basically just a little tiny buckler.
Yeah, but they got the blade spinning, which is wind turbining the gas it is. And they destroy that monster with that spear's impale thing, which is definitely one of the more brutal Ranger finishers.
Right, but it works really well.
Yeah.
It's a good finisher for that stage of the fight.
Wasn't the finisher though, yeah. Immediately after, Scorpita goes back to human form down, so Rangers jump out to confront, and the worm comes back as a giant, and so they
go back into the Zords after just leaving the Zords.
You see, they play the footage backwards, they disconnect, and then form the regular Megazord. Tommy is still there, just quiet, then later shows up like, yeah, I'm already here, ready and morphed. And then regular Megazord and Dragon Zord fight that.
So it's very clear that those were two separate Sentai fights.
Well,
from two separate episodes.
I don't remember if they were separate episodes, but there was more story in between them. And yeah, in Sentai, if a fight didn't end right away, Burai wouldn't stick around. He would have to leave. That's just what if you go back to that plant monster, Green Ranger's there at first and then isn't, because they do retreat, and Burai's only got so much time outside a room before he dies. Right. This time, yeah, he was already there. But yeah, we get the regular fight. Goes back to using the old combination footage with the crystals.
Which really shows, once you see that footage, that was some of the first footage from that iteration of Sentai that was filmed.
Yeah.
Because it's markedly aged different to the rest of the stock footage.
But, well, to be fair, both Sentai and Power Rangers reuse those scenes, because why wouldn't you?
Right, exactly. It's going to save you money.
And it was a good fight, though.
Right, yeah. And ultimately, I think that fight resolves itself really well, and then we get the conclusion where we find out what the commercial was for. And it was for the local Angel Grove Karate Center, where they mess with Bulk in probably the cruelest way I have ever seen this show mess with Bulk.
If it wasn't obvious, he doesn't know karate and really kind of just spazzed his way through the audition, which can work. Fun fact, season 3, Kat didn't know they required martial arts to audition, and she admitted in an interview to just faking it and somehow got through. But he kind of goes, ah! But they tell him he gets the part, and he got a part.
He got the role of bumbling doofus that doesn't know karate.
Hey, if you don't take it seriously, you could look like this. But if you take our classes, you could look like this. Cut to Tommy.
Which is totally not how that would work. And Bulk would actually probably have civil liability.
I mean, commercials do have a before and after shtick, but usually the actors are in on it.
Yeah, you're usually aware that you are playing the before. And clearly they did not sell that to Bulk. Bulk was under the impression he was the after.
And if you're wondering, obviously Tommy killed his audition, and the lady auditioning was doing this. Oh.
Yeah, there was some awkward faces during that interview.
But who cares? That was all real. That was Jason David Frank's karate of the time. Yeah.
Right. So, ultimately it makes sense. I feel like there's a few missed opportunities, but that's more my thinking of later stage Power Rangers.
It's kind of grand scheme of things, the show was filmed back to back. There was no season breaks.
And this is still...
Most of it was kind of written on the spot.
And this is still a reminder that we are still only on episode 32
of season 1.
And the idea of what Power Ranger could be is still kind of forming at this point. And it won't be until season 2 that they really play more into the dramatic aspects, the sacrifices of being a Power Ranger.
Don't worry, 10.
But there was a great opportunity here, and I think that's why, for me, as far as ranking goes, I have to give this a 3 out of 5. It's a great episode, but I can see where just one slight change, slight edit of not even stock footage. They wouldn't have to change any of the stock footage. Choices they made in California that could have made for a perfect early Power Rangers episode.
Well, actually, I think I'll give it a 4. At the end of the day, it was still a really fun episode. I wouldn't mind rewatching.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to give it a 4, and I was thinking about a 4, and then I suddenly remembered and just thought, there's something that would have made it even better. And they didn't do that, so I'll give it a 3, maybe a 3.5.
And for you young kids, it's worth noting that TV shows aren't like YouTube videos. They don't make one and then go and upload it. They're filming all these back-to-back at the same time.
Right, so this...
who knows where in production they were when this was filmed.
I have to imagine this was probably one of the later stages where they were beginning again to run out of footage.
And also, you gotta mean, just look at their hair, the fact that it hasn't grown at all. Once Tommy leaves and comes back, he'll have his trademark longer hair. Just wait for, season 2, which will be amazing because I love season 2.
So the next episode is going to be episode 33.
The yoke's on you. Anyone remember on my worst transitions list? Yeah. I remember this one from Sentai. It still has Green Ranger, but it's like him foreshadowing he won't be long.
But after that, we approach probably one of the more famous episodes in season 1, Green Candle. So we are approaching the point where Power Rangers does kind of make the transition into more dramatic storytelling.
Well, actually, it was making what was supposed to be the end of it, which was, the show was originally meant to end completely on episode 40, but, way too popular, too much money. And for Green Candle, Joe, you got your tissues ready? He hates to see the Green Ranger go, even temporary. This day, still the most famous Ranger in history.
Gee, do you think I have a favorite Power Ranger?
Yeah. The Green Emerald Ranger here. What are you called again?
Green Phoenix.
Yeah.
So you guys can check out some of our other stuff.
Yep, just launched a new video series, the Video Game Classroom, on the Emerald Rangers channel.
And you can find my stuff as articles the first Friday of every month on Emerald Rangers.
Yep. And hey, Joe might appear as a writer on the other web videos too. It's been a collab. And maybe on this channel we're going to bring back some other projects. Fingers crossed.
There's hope. And of course, with this year being the year of,
SPD.
There may be some projects in the work with that one as well. We're still kind of early days for that.
Oh wait, jump cut. Change Deca Master. It's broken, it's on the phone setting. Yeah,
Emerald Rangers.
Still broken. It's supposed to wrap up that noise. How about this one? No. Say when. Say when.
When? What did he even say?
He said, "What's up?" It went back to the phone. See you next time.